Life is not about heartbreak or hunger or need. It's not about sacrifice that leaves us to bleed. There's something more important that we're born to know. 'Cause whatever we do and wherever we go, it's all about love. It's all about love. Just open your heart. Love fills it all. It's all about love. Love is the miracle of a newborn child. Love is that someone makes your heart go wild. But however you feel it, it's all the same thing. It's the feeling within you that makes you want to sing. It's all about love. It's all about love. Just open your heart. Love fills it all. It's all about love. So when your world is overflowing with pain, when you don't remember a sky without rain, just hold on. Hope is on the way. Bring it a perfect new world, a bright, bright new day. It's all about love. It's all about love. Just open your heart. Love fills it all. It's all about love. Just open your heart. Love fills it all. It's all about love.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Anne Hartupee, for that beautiful beginning to our service. That was a perfect prelude for today's message, and we're so glad you're back with us today. I always say that Anne is a woman of many talents. If I can't be here, she can speak for me. If she can't be here, you don't want me to sing for her, trust me. So thank you. So I just want to say welcome to everyone, whether you are here in the sanctuary or watching and listening from the comfort and safety of your own home. We are so happy to have everybody together. We know that every single one of us is here through perfect divine appointment, here to bring something unique and wonderful to this spiritual community, and is our fervent prayer that everyone takes something unique and wonderful away. So thank you for being here. And I especially want to thank our ushers and greeters who have just done an amazing job. Not an easy job right now to try to keep everybody safe. So I know they don't like to stand up. Some of them are still working. But ushers and greeters, would you at least raise your hands and be recognized? Can we do that? Come on, you all. Thank you. And I'd like to thank our 2 videographers, Kathy Boyd from on high and Dennis Reese from the floor. We're experimenting with a couple different things right now. I just want to say that I'm sure everyone realizes that the COVID-19 cases are really up in St. Louis County, and we've been watching the numbers. I just want us to review to do everything we possibly can do to be safe while we're here. And so that includes wearing your mask, and please wear it above your nose unless you have a medical reason not to. And let's remember the 6 foot in distancing. We need everybody to exit the sanctuary quickly and go right to your cars. And believe me, I wish it were different. I wish we could all go downstairs and have coffee and conversation. And we will one of these days, so please do try to honor that. I know when you come in, it looks like that there might be your favorite seat available, but the reason we're seating everyone the way we do is so we can also exit without violating the 6 foot rule. So thanks for your cooperation. We really, really appreciate it. Just a couple brief announcements. One, the youth ed teachers have asked me to announce that the school supply collection is in the lobby. It's to the right of the door as you come in. And we'll be collecting school supplies till the end of August. There's a nice little list there of what's needed, a little pictorial representation of some things you can bring. And if you would wish, if you would rather, you certainly can make cash donations or checks payable to First Union Church and just write school supplies on it so it gets to the right spot. So at this time, I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like that we may have to postpone once again our August 23rd date for the annual meeting and new member ceremony. That really breaks my heart, but it looks like we're probably going to do that. Anne and I are going to be calling all the people who signed up for membership and just make sure they're still with us and that we still want them, and talk to them about their comfort level in terms of having a ceremony. We have 15 people who express an interest to join, so I have to figure out how to put them around here 6 foot apart. We'll do it when the time comes, okay? So if there's nothing else, then today's message is love, belonging, being enough. And I'd like to introduce today's prayer chaplain, Lynn Mark. Lynn, would you come up?
Good morning. So glad to see all of you. And my name is Lynn Mark, and today, along with Betty Ponzer, we are your prayer chaplains. And even though we are not as large a gathering as we usually are, if there are any of you who have anything on your heart and mind that you wish to pray about, please come and see one of us. Will be on either side of the back of the sanctuary. And as usual, all prayers are kept completely confidential. So I hope to see anybody after service. The word for today from the Daily Word is compassion. I am kind and compassionate. Would you say that with me? I am kind and compassionate. Seeking to grow in compassion, I look to the example of Jesus. Gospel stories give many examples of Jesus showing compassion by demonstrating keen awareness of the needs and feelings of friends and strangers alike. I remember learning that Jesus did not turn away from social outcasts. He healed them and shared meals with them. His compassion fed a multitude and restored wine to a wedding reception. Upon learning that his dear friend had died, Jesus wept. Even when his disciples deserted him as he was crucified, Jesus was able to ask God to forgive them. As I desire to grow in compassion, I know that my kind words and even simply my loving presence provide comfort. I listen deeply with my heart as well as with my ears. And from 2 Philippians, verse 4, let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. Would you pray with me for a moment? Precious Spirit, today we are grateful for the gifts of the heart, those qualities that open us up to the joy of doing acts of kindness and the ability to stand with another through their sorrow and their happiness. When we look through the eyes of kindness and compassion, we contribute to the flow of God's love in the universe. We become channels for God's peace to come through us and grace those around us. And so it is. Amen.
In her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, author and research professor Dr. Brene Brown writes that love and belonging are essential to wholehearted living. As she conducted her interviews over the years, she discovered that only one thing separated those who felt a deep sense of love and belonging from those who did not. Would anyone like to guess what that one thing is? Any guesses? It is absolutely a belief in worthiness, believing that one is worthy. Brene Brown says, if we want to fully experience love and belonging, we must believe we are worthy of them. Now, when we can stop being controlled by what we said last week was WWPT, does anybody remember what that stands for? What would people think, right? When we can let go of that what would people think piece, we can connect to our wholeness and know that we are enough. We are absolutely enough just as we are. Brown says, when we spend a lifetime trying to distance ourselves from the part of our lives that don't fit with who we think we're supposed to be, we hustle for our worthiness by constantly, check this out and see if this resonates with you, by constantly performing, perfecting, pleasing, and proving. The greatest challenge is in believing that we are worthy now. So many of us have either created or been handed down this long list of what she calls worthiness prerequisites. I'm calling it the I'll be worthy when and if syndrome. Things like this. I'll be worthy if I lose 20 pounds. I'll be worthy when I get that job or promotion. I'll be worthy if I get or stay sober. I'll be worthy when I can make a living selling my art. I'll be worthy if I can hold this marriage together. I'll be worthy when my parents finally approve of me. I'll be worthy when I think I can do it all and everybody thinks I'm doing it all without my even trying. And finally, I'll be worthy if everyone thinks I'm a good fill in the blank. Parent, friend, teacher, worker. Brene Brown says, we are worthy of love and belonging right now, as is, not if, not when. There are no prerequisites to true belonging. How could there be when we remember that we are individualized expressions of God, created whole and on this earth to be all that we can imagine God to be? Our role is to claim and live from our divine worthiness. As Howard Caesar writes in a book called 1 + 1 = 1, what you are is a changeless, eternal, spiritual being, endowed with inherent divine qualities. Whether you identify with this true part of yourself or not, and whether you express the qualities of spirit or not, they remain inherently in you. Love is your true nature, regardless of how removed you might be from expressing it. You cannot argue, he says, with the truth that God created you and put the spirit of wholeness, light, and divinity within you. What you are is the light and love of God that lives within. Your soul longs to be one with the light you were created to be. Brown says a critical piece in claiming our wholeness is cultivating a better understanding of love and belonging. Love is probably one of the most overused words in the English language and maybe the least understood. When our older grandson was about 5, every time someone would say something like, "Oh, I love coconut cream pie," or "I loved that movie," he would immediately ask, "Well, if you love it, are you going to marry it?" I don't know where that came from. But eventually we all learned to say, "Well, I like that book, Mitch, but I'm not planning to marry it." And actually he helped us. He helped the whole family appreciate appreciate the weight of the word love. We throw it around in all sorts of, superficial ways. Brene Brown says, ironically though, as much as we need love, we rarely talk about what it is. She asks, you might say, I love you every day, but, here's the question, when was the last time you had a serious conversation with someone about the meaning of love? Dr. Brown writes that for years, she herself avoided the word love in her work because she didn't know how to define it. She said as a researcher, she could hardly rely on sentimental quotes or song lyrics, right? Sometimes we rely on those too much, maybe, but anyway. Likewise, belonging is also essential to the human experience, but we rarely discuss or define that either. Brown says most of us think of belonging and fitting in as the same thing. And let's be clear, we are really good at fitting in. We are good at knowing what to wear, what to say, what not to say, and how to make other people happy. Brene Brown says we know how to chameleon our way through the day. One of her biggest surprises in her research was learning that fitting in and belonging are not the same thing, and in fact, fitting in actually gets in the way of belonging. Fitting in is about analyzing a situation and figuring out what we need to be in order to be accepted. We've all done that. Belonging doesn't require us to change who we are, it requires us to be who we are. There's a big difference there. Brown says that even though love and belonging are hard to measure, her research shows that they go together and that every woman, man, child is biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, be loved, and to belong. And she says when those needs aren't met, things don't go well for us. We ache, we numb, we suffer. And current psychologists are even saying that if we don't have love and belonging as children, we may not ever develop empathy. We may not ever develop compassion for one another. So Dr. Brown says it took her 3 years to whittle these definitions from decades of interviews. Love. We cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply known and shown. And when we honor the spiritual connection that grows from that with trust, kindness, and affection. Love is not really something we give or get. It is something we nurture and grow. She defines belonging as the innate human desire to be part of something larger than our human selves. To truly belong, not just to fit in, we have to present our authentic selves to the world. And here's a really important point. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance and self-love. This means learning how to trust and treat ourselves with respect and kindness. Most of us are harder on ourselves than we would ever be on any other human being. Raise your hand if you've noticed that. I mean, we really are. If you make a mistake, do you say, I am so stupid? If you run into a chair, do you say, I am so clumsy? As we've said before, be careful what you say to yourself because you are listening. Just calling someone we love stupid or clumsy would be incongruent with practicing love. And talking to ourselves that way takes a serious toll on our self-love. Brown says because it is so hard to cultivate self-love in our perfectionist society, it's no wonder that we spend our lives trying to fit in and gain approval. From games to gossiping to going along with the crowd, we'll do anything in order to fit in and meet our need to belong. However, the problem is it doesn't work. We can only truly belong by offering our authentic selves. Dr. Brown advocates that we courageously let go of perfectionism in order to engage in wholehearted living. To let go of who we think we are supposed to be in order to embrace who we truly are. and love is who we truly are. It's our very essence. Theoretical physicist, not a theologian, but a physicist, David Bohm says, love is our first, middle, and last name. Love is an indwelling spiritual power, one of the 12 that are inherent gifts from God. In fact, love has been called the universal master power of harmony, magnetism, and unity. It enables us to realize our oneness with God and all of humankind. And as much as we need love in our lives, our mission on this earth is actually not to seek love, but to express the love we already are. And in doing so, we attract ourselves to more and more love and belonging in our lives, and you know what we attract ourselves to becomes manifest. So, cultivating self-love and acceptance are really key. Jesus is very clear about this. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, when asked what is the greatest commandment, he gives identical word-for-word answers, which is very rare in the Gospels. He says, and all of you know this because we looked at it before, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is, love your neighbor as yourself. That's exactly right, as yourself. Bible scholar Ed Townley says, to understand Jesus' intent here, we have to remember that God is the energy of love. If we simply focus on that loving energy, that limitless loving energy that we are, and we let it flow through us unconditionally, we will express love in all things in our lives. And that flow of divine energy, in that flow of divine energy, lies our entire purpose as spiritual beings in human form. Now we know that spiritually we are holy and complete, we are perfect. But in our human skins, we can let things get in the way sometimes, right? We're going to talk about some of those things in the weeks ahead. But for now, let us remember that love is the power that harmonizes and dissolves all negative emotions about oneself and about others. As Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore said, the power of love acts as a mighty magnet for our good, adjusting all misunderstandings and making our lives happy and harmonious. So, as we think about how to actually practice love, here's the question. Is love a noun or is it a verb? Can you tell in the formal language arts teacher? I can't let it go, right? Brown quotes Bell Hooks, great writer, who said, always thinking of love as an action rather than a feeling is one way which anyone who uses the word assumes accountability and responsibility. Brene says, much more important than saying I love you is how we behave toward those we love. I see some people shaking heads. It's so true. There's a big difference between professing and practicing love. Talk is cheap sometimes, right? When we don't practice love with people we claim to love, it takes a lot out of us. Incongruent living is exhausting. And you know what? It's not so great for the other person either, because it's not really genuine. Brown posed the question, and this is an interesting one, to her blog readers. The question is, can we love others more than we love ourselves? Well, as you might expect, an emotional debate developed over this on her blog. Some thought they loved their children more than they loved themselves. But Renee asked a compelling question. She says, does loving your children mean that you are not poisoning them the way you poison yourself? Our negative self-thoughts are like secondhand smoke. They permeate the environment and can be toxic. Last week I mentioned my aunt who told her only son not to go near the water until he learned how to swim. Remember that? Well, I'm sure my dear aunt would have said that she loved her son more than life itself. Yet, she passed down to him her own fears and her own lack of self-confidence. How could she not? Now, it is possible for others to inspire us to new heights of love and compassion, But to reach those heights requires us to do some soul searching and work through our own stuff, as it said. Brene Brown writes, loving and accepting ourselves are the ultimate acts of courage. In a society that says, put yourself last, self-love and acceptance are almost revolutionary. When we explored the 5 agreements earlier this year, I told my story about going to a youth church camp in my early teens. Vividly, I remember especially those evenings around the campfire and feeling so close to God in my young mind. The stars in the summer sky were so vivid, the campfire was mesmerizing, and I was moved by many of the campfire songs, like, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." But one message I received around that campfire was far from enlightening. I will never forget it, word for word. It was, always put God first, put other people second, put yourself last. It took me years to release the belief that I should always put myself last. In the 5th agreement, the authors write, when you always put yourself last, you sacrifice your personal freedom and live according to someone else's point of view. You try to be good enough for your mother, your father, your teachers, your boss, your beloved. And I would add that you lose yourself. You can lose yourself in the process. But what happens really in our everyday lives when someone gets on our very last nerve? Anybody ever had that happen to them? I think we all have. Reverend Catherine Ponder says, a good way to practice the power of love is mentally working with those who aggravate us. She suggests that when disharmony, criticism, or personality conflicts arise, instead of retaliating or going into defense mechanism, we can just sit quietly for a few moments and think about that person, deliberately sending him or her loving thoughts of goodness. We can visualize the person enfolded in and expressing as love. And Ponder says sometimes the results are so fast and so complete that it's breathtaking. Try it. It really works. She suggests using this method at the beginning and end of every day. For any unpleasantness that has occurred, we can dare to recast or reframe the experience, to see it from a different perspective. And as we look for the good in all situations and people, eventually we learn to live in divine expectation of our own good, and that good unfolds. And so, in our spiritual community and in any group in which we belong, let us remember that we are loved, we are enough, and being true to ourselves is the best gift we could possibly give to one another. In The Gifts of Perfection, Brene Brown uses the metaphor, dig deep, with her 10 guideposts to wholehearted living. The first guidepost is cultivating authenticity. And here she shares in a challenging situation that she gets deliberate, that's what the D stands for, she gets deliberate with her intentions by silently repeating the mantra to herself, don't shrink, don't puff up, stand on sacred ground. Stand on who you really are. And then for the I, inspired, she says, we can all be inspired by everyone who shares their work and opinions with the world. And that's never been easier than it is today. And as we said last week, courage is courageous. Once we get exposed to people who are courageously sharing, we have more courage to do the same thing. And finally, the G stands for get going, the action piece. Making authenticity a priority. Brene writes, when acceptance and approval are my goals, it's easy to end up thinking I'm not good enough. This is her in her own voice. But when authenticity is my goal, I keep it real and I never forget it. And if people don't like me, I'm okay. That's a journey. That's an important journey. Wholeheartedness, in the end, is about consciousness, choice, and confident living. It's about engaging in our lives from a place of worthiness. It's practicing courage and compassion for ourselves and others, as Daily Word said, and valuing our connections, making our connections count. In the end, it is about practicing love, belonging, and being enough. And so it is.
There's a holy hush around us as God's glory fills the place. I've touched the hem of His garment. I can almost see His face, and my heart is overflowing with the fullness of His joy. I know without a doubt that I've been with the Lord. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel His mighty power and His grace. I can feel the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
And so, now, wherever you are, whether you're sitting in this beautiful sanctuary or in the safety and comfort of your own home, let's do know that surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. There is no place we can ever be that God is not. And so now I invite you to take a few minutes to close your eyes if you have not already done so, and if that is comfortable for you, to become comfortable in your seat, just feeling it fully and completely supporting you. Relax your body, being especially sensitive to any areas of tightness or tension, and take that deep, cleansing breath. Holding your breath for just a few seconds, and then slowly, gently releasing. It only takes one conscious breath to become fully attuned to this present moment. And so as you continue breathing in and breathing out, with every inhalation, feel the breath of life entering your lungs. And with every exhalation, release any worries, fears, or thoughts of less than. In this time of centered awareness, rest in this present moment, knowing it is, like all moments, a gift. Every breath is a gift. Stillness is a gift. From this sacred place of stillness, realize who you are. You are an individualized expression of the divine, one with the universe, one with all life, one in the perfect, unconditional love of God. All the powers of the Christ are your divine birthright. As Charles Fillmore wrote, you are on this earth to be all that you can imagine God to be. When you claim your true identity, you are able to release the old limitations that others have imposed upon you. They are not the truth of you. They never were. In their place, you set intentions based on the love you are, to love yourself and others. No conditions, no expectations, no judgments. In every thought, every action you contemplate, be willing to ask yourself, is this action I'm considering, is this relationship I'm entering into, is this decision I'm making based on the truth of my being? If the answer is yes, you will be acting from a position of love, never from a position of victimhood and fear. So in this quiet moment, ask yourself, where does this truth lie in me? Divine love is your name and nature. Gratefully know that the well of love can never run dry, for the source of love is eternal. Under the influence of love, awaken to more love and belonging than you have ever known. Call forth the magnetizing, harmonizing power of divine love that attracts you to ever unfolding good. Unify your thoughts, words, and actions until you see only good in yourself and others. So if there's any life situation where you have been feeling less than belonging, less than enough, take this into your heart now for a few moments in the silence, knowing that you are being guided to revealing more and more of the love you are. So now, as we all come together as a spiritual community, just take one more breath and feel the joy and power of knowing we are all one. Set the intention to live in harmony and joyful expectation of your good, and the universe will respond. And for this, our hearts are full of gratitude, and we say, in the name and through the power of the Christ, thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Confident living, banner of might, comes from the Spirit with glorious light. Confident living cleanses my soul, giving the Spirit fullest control. Confident living rights every wrong. Dynamic power helps me be strong. Confident living comforts my heart. From such a blessing I can't depart. Confident living helps me expand visions of value, the kingdom at hand. Confident living, talent to win, gift of the Spirit, well, it moves from within. Confident living rights every wrong. Dynamic power helps me be strong. Confident living comforts my heart. And from such a blessing I cannot depart. Confident living keeps me aware ever that true love is found everywhere. Confident living fulfills my way, and it opens my channels, opens them right up without delay. Confident living rights every wrong. Dynamic power helps me be strong. Confident living comforts my heart from such a blessing, with all of my blessings. From such blessings I can never, never depart. Yeah.
So now we come to the end of our service where we have a moment just to pause and reflect and give thanks for our many blessings. We're so thankful for all of you who are here today, and as I said, for those who are listening online. And I just want you to know that the Board of Trustees is making every effort during this period to keep from dipping into our reserves, and because of that, we're so appreciative of all the love offerings that have come in various ways through the mail, PayPal, all the different electronic mechanisms. They're very much appreciated, as are your beautiful notes of encouragement, and most of all, your prayers. We just know that we are one with divine source and one another, and we are being guided every step of the way. So join me in doing our unity blessing for our gifts, if you would. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so our service in a few moments will end with Anne Hartupee playing Let There Be Peace on Earth, hopefully. And afterwards, please wait for an usher to dismiss you. If you wish to pray with a prayer chaplain, please stay in your seat and they'll motion to you when it's time. Also, I just have a quick announcement. Renee Brown called me early this morning and wanted me to thank all of you for your prayers. Paul's surgery is over, it was successful, and she said they just felt all of the powerful prayers, not only from the prayer chaplains, but from the whole spiritual community. So that thank you is from Renee. So until next week, thank you all for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again, either here in our sanctuary, or online, or on Facebook, on our website, our YouTube channel. And in oneness, please know that we are holding everybody in sacred prayer. Until next week, thank you.